It's a Saturday, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, and Jeanette and I had an idea that I would make a video for all of you as a surprise for Christmas. Since I've had the last year in pretty scary health, I thought it might be a good idea to do something like this. There's things that's happened to me in my lifetime, probably a lot of you don't know about, and this is a really good way to let you know all about it.
How was your name picked for you?
Alice was named after my grandmother Berman, that lived in New Carlisle, that raised my father, Ray. And Susan, I have no idea, because I've never heard that name in the Bible. I was born at City Hospital. If you'll remember, right now, where Speedway is, on the corner of Selma Road and East Street, we had a hospital on that corner. It was called City Hospital. That's where I was born. And then in later years, they had one doctor, and his name was Dr. Quinn. He was our family doctor. In later years, Dr. Quinn built another hospital in a mansion there where Governor's Manor is. And because I went there in later years when I broke my arm, but that'll go later on down the film. My mother's name was Marie Lavender Whip. Nigh. Her maiden name was Nigh.
Who was she named after?
I really have no idea.
When and where was she born?
She was born in Springfield, January the 16th, 1905.
What was your father's name?
Ray B. Whip, Ray Benjamin Whip. He was born in 1905 in New Carlisle, Ohio.
The date?
1905. Oh, May the 18th.
And he wasn't named after anybody in particular?
I think he might have been named Ray after his uncle Raymond Berman.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have a brother John that's alive, that's 3 years younger than I am.
What's his full name?
John Lowry Whip. I have a deceased brother by the name of Peter Whip.
What's his full name? Raphael.
Oh, Peter Raphael Whip. He was age of 2 when he wouldn't eat in the summertime. He wouldn't eat, and they took him to the hospital. And when they took him to the hospital, back then the nurses wore white uniforms with pins with their names on the front of their uniforms. And he got a scratch behind his ear, and they seemed to think he died of blood poisoning. I had a sister, Mary, that was younger than Pete, that passed away. She was, her cord was wrapped around her neck, and she was stillborn.
And where's Petey? You called him Petey?
Pete.
Peter Raphael?
Yeah.
You called him Petey?
Yes, he's buried at Vale Cemetery on top of Grandma. Grandma Nigh.
And Mary Whip?
And Mary Whip is buried on top of Bridget.
And you said that Nanny picked their names out of the Bible?
Out of the Bible. Nanny picked them out of the Bible.
And where did Lowry come from?
Came from, I had an uncle that his last name was Lowry. And Nanny and Grandpa thought a lot of him. He lived in Dayton.
So Uncle John would have been the youngest. All these other children was born before Uncle John.
Yes, they were born before
And
Uncle John.
Where did you fit in? You would have been the oldest.
I was the oldest. And thank heavens I was the oldest, because I had to beat my brother up numerous times. I thought I'd throw that in there.
Where was your father during your birth?
Probably fishing out on a boat, without a doubt.
How much did you weigh at birth?
I have no idea. Mother never told me. She just said I was breastfed.
What color were your eyes and your hair?
My eyes were blue and my hair was dark. Very, very curly.
Who was the delivering doctor?
Dr. Quinn.
And the hospital was City Hospital.
City
You
Hospital.
said you were born there. Is there anything else that Nanny told you about the day you were born, or do you have any other?
No, I don't have any. Nan never talked about things like that. She just never talked about any of us except the two that passed away. I think it just hurt her too bad to get into detail about things.
Was there baby furniture in your family, like a crib or cradle, potty chair or high chair?
See, Nanny never said anything
She
about
never-
things like that.
Never kept any kind of furniture?
No.
Like that? Describe the house that your family lived in when you were born.
We lived on Mound Street, on the corner over there of Ludlow and Mound. Not on the corner, but the second house on the southwest side of Mound Street. And then that's where we lived when I was born. We lived with Grandma and Grandpa Nigh. Mom's mom and Dad. Yeah.
So from what you can recollect about that,
I can't recollect anything
I mean,
about.
Grandpa got along with
Oh,
the
yes.
guys really well.
Oh, he was a wonderful gentleman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have any special baby nicknames?
No, just Susie, and I hated it.
Do you have any special stories about as a young child, toddler age, or?
No, we moved down on Laurie Avenue across from where Kroll Collier's is now, on down in the next block. And Mom, it was a large apartment building, and Mom took care of the apartments there for years. And I've got pictures in my photograph album of me when I was with a little girl standing holding hands on the street.
Do you have any idea about what age you were at where you started really liking sports? Did that happen for you right away?
Oh, I was always sports nut from the time I was probably 7, 8 years
Did
old.
that just come from playing with the neighborhood kids?
Yes.
Being outside?
Yes, because see, there were no girls in the neighborhood. It was all boys.
Were you baptized or christened?
Yes, I was baptized in the Catholic St. Raphael's Church by Monsignor Varley.
Did you wear special clothing? You don't remember that?
No, just white.
There's a picture of you in a christening gown. I
Yes.
think, when you were a baby. In your photos.
Oh, there is?
Didn't you have a cap on or something?
I don't know. I don't remember seeing any picture like that, Jeanette.
How did your father earn a living when you were born?
My father was, I think, I'm almost sure that he was a bricklayer from either that or he started out as hod carrier and then learned bricklaying from then on. He helped build the post office, News and Sun, laid brick, even went later years to repair a lot of the post office.
Community hospital.
Community hospital.
Numerous homes.
Oh, numerous homes in town. I can take you down on Plum Street and show you 2 homes that he's built with stone. On the corner of Cedar Street.
Where did Nanny work?
Nanny worked at Kroll Collier. She was a filing clerk. But then she didn't work there very long. After when Dad got a good job, he didn't want her to work anymore. He wanted her to stay home with us.
What was your earliest memory?
My earliest memory? Oh, gee.
Is your house on Alden Avenue?
Yeah, I think so. I think my earliest memories on Alden Avenue were when the iceman would bring us ice. In a big, Mr. Byerman, the iceman would bring us ice. And John and I would get us a newspaper, a daily paper, and go out. Mr. Byerman would give us a big hunk of ice where some of it had chipped off. Because they didn't have refrigerators, they had ice boxes. And that's the way you kept your milk and all your food cold. And Mr. Byerman would give us a big chunk of ice, and John and I'd have a ball. Especially when it was really hot.
In the book, you said one of your earliest memories was your mother's mother passing away.
Oh, that's right. Grandma Nigh lived with Mom there at the last because Frank had already passed away, her husband. And Grandma Nigh lived up at the top of the steps on Alden Avenue.
And that was Margaret.
That was Margaret.
Margaret.
And she had diabetes. And I just so remember going up the steps to see her the last time.
What do you remember the best about your mother and father's physical appearances during your childhood?
I don't know. They always wore clothes. They dressed so fancy. Mom never was without a dress. I mean, slacks back then didn't come into being. You know, even me, when I went to school in the 50s, or in the 40s and that, I wore skirts and stuff to school. We never wore slacks or nothing like that. That was nothing women wore. But anyhow, Dad always dressed in white shirts and Mom in her dresses. And
so they wore dress shoes?
Oh, yeah.
High heels kind of things? Did Nanny wear high
yes,
heels?
Definitely, yeah. Yep, elaborate. You would say they were elaborate back then. We didn't have much, but...
You look like it.
Yeah, that's right.
What are your childhood memories of your mother and father's personalities?
Oh, my God. My mother, was humble. Oh, my God, always looking out for someone else. Just love kids to death. Dad, he was a clown. My dad was, oh my God, my dad was a clown.
Okay.
Dad, you could never go anywhere in my dad's station wagon because you'll probably get a fish hook in your ass. Julie and them, when Dad would take them to school and that, and they were little, they always said that, oh my golly, poor Grandpa, he was just a sight.
Now, with him being a bricklayer and that, was his hands always...
Yes.
Did you notice something about his hands always being rough?
They were rough and cracked all the time. And they finally found some type of And then he wore these rubber things on his fingers. After so many years of doing that, they found these rubber things that protected his fingers. But that's all he did was lay bricking. I mean, he didn't have to carry what they called be a hod carrier or anything like that.
What physical traits did you inherit from each of your parents?
I don't know. I think I kind of got my dad's sense of humor. And I know John has too. But Mom, I don't know. I don't know, really. It's hard to talk about yourself.
It says here you got your bad knees from Mother.
I got my bad knees from Mom. Yeah. Poor Nanny.
So your nose, your eye collar.
Yeah.
Where'd you get your eye collar?
I got my nose from Mom, too. My eye collar, Dad had blue eyes. Yeah.
And Nanny had hazel eyes.
Yeah, Nanny had hazel eyes.
So we all pretty much inherited blue eyes.
Blue eyes, that's right. Yeah.
Do you know what personality traits you inherited from your parents?
Personality traits?
Like you said, your sense of humor came from Grandpa.
Yeah. God, he was funny. I'll have to tell you why he was so funny. There at the last, before he passed away, about a couple of years before, he had a wreck in his Pontiac. Okay. So they took it in to get it fixed. And I was sitting up there at my station wagon at the corner of Florence and Main, waiting on the light to change, and he hit me in the rental car. Here he was. He had his own in the place to be fixed, and he hit me in his rental car. So I told him, I said, Dad, let's just go before somebody reports this. Let's just go on. That's when he should have stopped driving. But he did shortly after that. He had a stroke.
It says here in your book, honesty, kindness, appreciate others' opinions, love one another. If I could have them back to hug them and tell them how much I love them.
That's the truth, Jeanette. I think everyone feels like if they had somebody back.
And you put, my mother was not a hugger?
No, Mom was not a hugger.
She didn't show
She was
physical.
never, no. All the young life that I had with her, and all the time I spent with her. When I worked at Olan Mills and that, I would go to the record shop down there and buy records, like Gale Storm and, oh my God, everybody that was popular back then. And we would sit in the dining room there in front of the stove, and we'd play music all the time. She loved music.
Did she dance?
Oh, she danced when she was younger, but no, I never seen her dance.
She just really liked to hear music.
She loved music, yes.
But you put she showed her love in a lot of other ways.
Yes, she did. She was so giving and so caring, and you often wish you had your mom and dad again. There's times when you want them.
Are there any other physical traits, talents, abilities that you share with other family members?
Well, yes. I think everyone in the family is artistically inclined, and grandkids, everyone. There's nothing I don't think any of us would not try to do. Build cabinets. Look at Uncle John and these fancy automobiles. Uncle Larry, what all he can do, what he can build, what he can fix, repair. It's gone all down into all the family. Artistic abilities and everything.
And what types of foods were available, and how did they prepare them back when you were young?
The only food that they had to prepare for children were oats and things of that nature. They had these biscuit things that were, that when they started to teeth, that called Z-bar, ZB, or some type of cookie or cracker that was extremely hard. But most parents fixed their own baby food. There was no jar food for babies at that time.
Describe any childhood illnesses or injuries you had, treatments, or received. Were you allergic to anything? Who was your family doctor? You already said Quinn. Did the doctor make house calls?
The doctor made house calls. I broke my wrist sled riding.
Which one?
My right. See how crooked it is?
Mm.
And Dr. Quinn set it. Just put a splits on it.
And you had an attack of appendicitis?
I had an attack of appendicitis. I went horseback riding. Well, I had to lay for 3 days. I think I ate too many grapes. The seeds from grapes. And I went horseback riding, and I fell off the horse because I wore loafers. And I had amnesia from the time I got off the horse all the way home. I don't ever remember ever riding my bicycle up Belmont Avenue from down at Mitchell Boulevard. I never remembered that until I got up on Morgan Street.
Did they take your appendix out, or you just had appendicitis?
I just had appendicitis, but when they took my gallbladder out now, my appendix is gone.
Okay, so that was at the age of 14.
Yes.
What type of diapers did you wear?
Cloth diapers.
They didn't have.
No, they didn't have plastic diapers in.
Did they have the plastic things that went over your pants though?
Yes.
They did have the plastic?
Yes.
What was the earliest memories of your brothers, sisters, and playmates? Do you recall special activities with them?
Oh, yes, we did everything. The majority of kids in my neighborhood were boys, and if there were any girls, they had to stay in and help their dear little mommy. But I got to do everything. I got sports and everything else. I really think my mother just wanted to get rid of me. But anyhow, John and I were such a pain in the neck. But anyhow, we played ball, we played softball, we played volleyball, basketball. We just did every type of sport there was, kicked the can and everything.
What's this about jumping off a garage roof?
Oh, yes, Mr. Conrad. We're behind Nanny's house. There was a little garage there, and they kept their car in it. We'd climb up the tree and get on the roof and jump down from the roof of the garage under the sandbox. It took me years before I decided to do that.
Do you discuss later in the book about how you've come about playing pro ball?
Oh, yes.
Do you do that later?
Yes, yeah, I did that later.
What's the first toy you remember?
First toy I remember is having a bicycle.
An Irish male?
Well, we never had one. I wanted one, but I never got one.
And also asked, did you have any special teddy bear or stuffed animals?
No, they never had things like that when I was a kid. If they did, they were highly expensive, like stiff bears.
When and where are your ancestors? When did they come to America? How did they travel here?
They traveled here by boat.
Where did they first live?
They've lived. Well, I know that my great-grandmother, Bridget, went to, govern, and one of the governor's homes, she was, took care of one of the governor's homes, Bridget did. I don't know whether she was a cook or a cleaning lady or what she was, but I remember that. I remember Mom telling me that.
So they came from Ireland.
They came from Ireland, the county of Cork, I thought, but didn't you find something different?
I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and look. They came during the potato famine.
During the potato famine. And I guess it was one terrible, terrible trip that those people made coming across the ocean. Yeah, Bridget's supposed to be husband that never came home.
This would be your great-great.
Yeah, my great-great-grandfather on my maternal side.
He was in the war.
He was in the
1862.
and 1863 down at and he was released at San Antonio, Texas. I don't know whether it was at the time of the Alamo, whether he was involved in that, the war, but it was the war between the states. And I have his discharge papers for 1862 and 1863.
So when he left, he went to California, and it says here that Bridget and her child ended up in Columbus, Ohio.
Yes.
And he remarried somebody in California, and there was never any record of divorce, so he could have very well been a bigamist.
Yes.
Bridget Rose is buried
in Calvary Cemetery. As you enter Calvary Cemetery, you go to the second left turn, and it's up at the top of the hill on your left.
Do you have any famous or infamous ancestors? When and where did they live, and what did they do?
Oh my gosh. I had an aunt, I guess far aunt and uncle, Art and Min Berman. They were in vaudeville.
Minnie?
Aunt Minnie could play the piano like honky tonk. Really wonderful. I guess they were really good. They traveled all over the world.
And it says they're buried.
Oh yes, they're buried in New Carlisle Cemetery, and if you enter the cemetery, you'll see this enormous stone, and it says Min and Art Berman. I mean, it's awesome. It is awesome stone. Very fascinating. A really, truly tribute to the two wonderful people.
Okay, it also says that your grandmother, Alice.
Yes, and Mary, my Aunt Mary, that I used to go stay with, they're buried there too. But when Julie and I went over there to see about it, the people in the office weren't there, and some have lost their stones, and they have to find where they're buried at through the office because of the stones being decrepit and...
And speaking of Aunt Mary, this is who you were...
I used to go down to Dayton and stay with her. She'd always want me to come and be with her.
So you were the closest to her.
Yes. And we'd ride the traction line. She'd take me downtown. And she's the one that went with the fella that owned the jewelry store, the Jewish man. Because Aunt Mary thought a whole lot of Mother, but she was on my dad's side.
Have you ever had any relatives displayed artistic or creative abilities? Do you know any items a family member ever created or invented or improved?
No, except Larry and his building a ramp for Ed after he lost his leg to get in the travel trailer. I never seen anything like it. Took him right up and in the travel trailer, but it was awesome. No, I think this family could do anything they wanted to do. Everyone in it, if they made their mind up to do it.
Any family relatives owned items considered to be rare unusual or unique?
Just Uncle John and his old automobiles, how he's restored them, and Larry with building my pole barn out of nothing, but all by himself, and just numerous things, and all the children with all their artistic abilities.
Other than spouse or children, did any relatives serve in the armed forces?
Oh my gosh, my Uncle Paul. He was over in the Panama in the Second World War. He was in the Panama, and he said all he did was carry General MacArthur's furniture across the sea.
That's pretty unusual. Did you have any family reunions when you were growing up?
Oh, we had all type of family reunions. Aunt Rose, Fran, and Marie, Mom, they would plan these reunions, and we had wild card games and everything.
What relatives experienced the Great Depression, and how did it impact their lives?
Oh, that was a terrible time in the 30s. My grandpa sold apples on the street just to survive. The people in America had stamps that you were only allowed to buy so much sugar, stamps that you were only allowed to buy so much gas, and everything was rationed. It was really, really a depressing time in my life. But I was very, very young.
I'm just going to read through the list real quick of your mother's brothers and sisters. She had John Nigh, William Nigh, Raphael, who was killed by the train, Nanny, Rose, Francis, Paul, and Leo Nigh, and they're all written in this book.
Yes.
And you can have that information. The kids can all get that information.
Yes.
It says here, name all your first cousins. I'll just kind of breeze through these two. Tyke Krupp.
And the DEC means he's deceased.
Mm-hmm. Deceased. Bernard Krupp, deceased.
My cousin Sonny, he was deceased.
Sonny, that was Bernard, right?
Yeah.
Kay.
Kay is
Krupp.
still alive.
Bill Nigh.
Bill Nye's deceased.
Tommy Nigh.
Tommy Nye's still alive.
John.
John's alive.
Eileen.
Deceased.
Mary.
Mary's deceased.
Donald.
Donald's still alive. He's in St. John's.
Jimmy.
Jimmy's deceased.
Donna Hover Miller.
Yes, she's living. That's Fran's daughter.
Leah Rader.
That's Fran's daughter, Leah.
Sister Karen Hover.
Yes, Sister Karen retired and is in the Sisters of Charity home down in Cincinnati now.
Father Carl Hover.
And Father Carl, I don't know, I think he's up in Michigan. He's still a monk.
I emailed him the other day, by the way. He responded.
He did.
Carolyn Stickford.
Carolyn Stickford has never been social with the family. Thinks she's a little better than anyone else, I'm sorry to say.
4 Nigh boys.
4 Nigh boys.
You said Paul Nigh
boys.
boys.
Uncle Paul's 4 boys. Pat, Scott, Mike and Kelly. Yeah. I've never seen them, never talked to them. Uncle John's been out there, but I haven't never been out there.
Where did your maternal grandparents live during your childhood? Describe their home and any special memories you have of visiting there.
Oh, my grandma and grandpa lived on Mountain Street for years, and then they moved up behind Nanny and Schneeberger's house, behind Whittaker's Drugs, in a little house up there, and lived for quite a few years, and then Grandpa Frank died, and Grandma could no longer stay up there by herself, so she moved in with Nanny. Grandpa Frank was all stooped over, like real. He was almost bent over halfway. He was so crippled up with arthritis and that. I love my Uncle Frank, or my Grandpa Frank. He was a fine gentleman.
How did your maternal grandparents earn a living? What do you know about their youth education, religious beliefs, and interests?
Well, I just know they were stout Catholics, and I don't really know what what Grandpa Frank did. I think he worked at one of the, maybe Buffalo Road Roller or someplace there.
You have White Motors.
White Motors, is that where he worked?
Or
okay.
Cooper Energy.
Cooper Energy, where I went to work at, in the laboratory over there. Yeah, that's right. I had forgotten that. He worked at Cooper Energy or White Motors, it was called, on Lexington Avenue in Sheridan.
Describe your maternal grandparents' physical appearances and personalities. You said Margaret was kind of heavy.
Margaret was a very heavy lady, extremely heavy. But Grandpa Frank, he was real small man, all so bent over. He had arthritis so bad.
Tell us about the border collie.
Oh, they had a border collie, Jinx. Oh, he was the most beautiful long-haired dog you've ever laid eyes on. And he got really crippled up with arthritis and that. We had to put him to sleep up on High Street, the vet's office, and I just sat in the car and cried and cried and cried. I'll never forget it. I couldn't have been very old. I probably, but maybe 10 years old, if I was that old.
When and where were your paternal grandparents born? What were their full names and who were they named after? Do you know?
No, I have no idea.
You have Fern Berman Whip Dilley was born in New Carlisle.
Yeah, she was born in New Carlisle.
Chester Whip.
Chester Whip was born here in Springfield, as far as I know.
He lived in Donaldsville.
He did live in Donaldsville? I've forgotten that.
He died in Donaldsville.
Well, I never met the man, so I never knew him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have anything to do with Dad. He never supported him.
And their last name, Whip, was spelled with two
P's. And because Dad never supported Dad, Dad removed one P from his name.
So, what was Fern like? It says she was...
She was a small lady. Small, sort of a humble person like Nanny was. I didn't know her very well because I was very small at the time.
Where did your mother and father live when they were growing up?
Dad lived in New Carlisle. He delivered telegrams on bicycles. Helped support his mother.
Western Union.
Western Union, because his mother was single. And
Nanny lived on Charles Street?
Yeah, Nanny lived on Charles Street, and they had a terrible fire in their house and lost thousands and thousands of dollars of Halloween and costumes that they wore. Nanny says you just wouldn't believe these clothes that they lost.
Elaborate.
Yes, elaborate clothes. They lived beside Henry, owned Henry's funeral home over there on South Yellow Spring Street. They lived next door to him. He was a wonderful man.
So what was that like growing up for your mother and father? What did they tell you about their childhood experiences in their teenage years? Did they tell you about specific friends, pets, hobbies, interests during those times?
No, they really didn't, except for the depression part of it.
And you have here Nanny went to the World's Fair.
Oh yes, you mean my grandmother?
Mm-hmm.
Your my mother, I mean. Oh, Nanny went to the World's Fair in New York. She went to Coney Island in New York. She did a lot when she was young. Traveled quite a bit, I guess.
And did she go to dances a lot?
Yeah, she liked to dance. They had on the corner of James, where the PNC Bank is now. That was all barren there, Jeanette. There was no homes or anything built there. But they had a big dance hall, and they'd have bands in there.
John Street in Yellow Springs?
Yeah, John Street in Yellow Springs.
That's limestone.
Well, I mean,
is it?
I mean, right there on, on Yellow Springs.
Is Yellow Springs
and John Street, yeah, before all those homes were built.
Dad had a tough time as his mother died after.
Yeah, so he went to work and delivered telegrams and stuff to work to help his mother.
Said you were 5?
Yeah, I was probably 5. But Mom told me all that.
And where did Nanny graduate from?
Central High School.
And your dad?
See, right across from Kroll Collier's, Jeanette, and that big empty lot, that's where the city schools was. The big city schools, and everyone went there, whether they were Catholic or no matter what religion they were. They all went to school there until the Catholic schools were built.
So another hobby that Grandpa had, what did he do as the Masons? He was in the...
Oh, yeah. Dad was a stout Democrat Union man. He was head of the Bricklayers Union. He was head of the Carpenters and the Building Trades Union. He was secretary to that.
Or your mother was stout Catholic.
Yes, stout Catholic.
And
Dad was not. But when Dad had... You have to learn catechism to go to the Catholic school. Catechism means the same as the Bible.
So in order to marry...
In order to marry, they had to promise to send me and John to the Catholic school. Or they couldn't marry in the Catholic church. So John and I went to the Catholic school.
They believed that Democratic Party's for the working man.
That's right.
It says here that they were very involved with John F. Kennedy.
Yes, I was too. I worked for years for the Democratic Party, getting money and everything else from all the neighbors and all the friends that we knew. I worked hard, and then I saw him. He passed within 15 feet of me. They had an entourage coming from Springfield to Columbus, and he was in an open convertible sitting in the back of it, and I could almost reach out and touch him. And that was the most awesome thing to me ever was. And then to think that he was shot through the head. Dad, this Jack Hamilton was running for city commissioner. So he come to Dad and he says, Daddy, Ray, he said, you are in the building trades, you're known all over Springfield, you're a fisherman and all that. Will you support me in the union and all to get me elected as city commissioner? Dad says, oh, sure I will. So what did I have to do? I had to paint all the signs, big wood signs all over the city of Springfield. I painted these signs. And you know what happened? It tickled me to death because my dad got into all kinds of stuff. And he got into this. And then after Jack Hamilton was elected, he never even knew Dad after that. I got so damn tickled. I says, Dad, I bet you won't get in politics again. Oh, God. And I said, don't come to me to have paint any signs either.
What were your mother and father's forms of entertainment?
Just Mom liked music and Dad liked fishing, that's for sure.
Radio?
Oh, yeah, we sit and listen to the radio. The radio was like television is to you kids now. You could sit and listen to everything that was going on, like Fibber McGee and Molly. They had this closet. Oh, don't open that closet. And everything. Oh, you could hear all the stuff coming out of the closet. But that's the way radio was.
And so you were born during the age of TV when, I mean, you were getting to be pretty much older when TV started coming into all the homes.
Yeah.
And what
I must have been 12 or something.
Do you remember the first time you watched TV?
Yeah. Up there beside the new pizza place up there on the corner of Florence Street. No, Tim Hortons is in there now, isn't it? The corner of Florence now. And East Main. I think a new Tim Hortons in there.
Not Florence, that's Belmont.
No, not Belmont, on up the next block. Or 2-3 blocks. Florence Street.
Domino's now, isn't it?
Oh, is that Domino's? Okay, anyhow, this man moved in there and had the first televisions. So the kids and I, all the neighbor kids, we'd go, he was a nice gentleman, old gentleman, and he'd let us come in there and watch TV. Milton Berle showed,
so you didn't have one in your house?
Oh, no.
But you would run and watch the
we'd go up there and watch the shows. Yeah, we watched the shows in the evening. Because we didn't have the money, you know. Dad, in the wintertime, Dad never worked. I mean, now they can lay brick in any type of weather because the mortar is made now so that they can apply, you know, they can work in all types of weather and lay brick in that. But back then they couldn't. They had salamanders and things like that, you know, but...
So what was your father the best at?
What was my... Fishing. Oh my God, fishing. Oh, you couldn't get any station wagon anytime. He either had full of, on the dashboard, full of all of his work that he does for the Bricklayers Union and for the Carpenters Hall, or you found yourself sitting on a fish hook or a plug or something because he was so careless about everything.
So Nanny just liked music and listening to records, and
Nanny and I listened to
She was kind of a homebody, and
she never.
Grandpa was gone all the time, and
yes,
really was.
I think she just more or less wanted to get rid of him. He was a pain in the neck. I'm reading in my book now because of some of the questions and that, giving Jeanette a break. Mom and Dad met in 1933. I think they met on a blind date. I know Mom said she was 28 years old. I guess it was love at first sight, or it says how long did they date? I don't know all that. Do you know when your father proposed? I do know when. I do not know when or where he proposed. I know Frank and Maggie did not approve of Grandpa because he wasn't Catholic. But Dad took catechism, and they were married in the church with a proposal that John and I had to go to Catholic school.
Which church?
At the St. Raphael's Church.
Which one's St. Ray's?
Up on the corner High and Spring Street. Since they've refurbished that, isn't it gorgeous?
So what was St. Bernard's?
St. Bernard's, well, see, they changed the school district. When I was in the 6th grade, they changed where I lived in the school district. In other words, I had to go down to St. Bernard's now. So I had to change schools. So in the 7th grade, I went down to St. Bernard's. 7th and 8th grade. Well, as I go on, I could tell you more.
So as you went to church when you were growing up,
As
you went to St. Raphael's Church.
I went to St. Raphael's Church, yes.
But to school you went to St. Bernard's.
No, I went to St. Raphael's for 6 years. And then the 7th years, when they changed the district, my school district, I had to change schools. So then the 7th and 8th grade, I went down to St. Bernard's. I really liked St. Bernard's a lot more. Do you know why? Because my 2 cousins weren't in class with me. I mean, I hate to say that and put it on camera, but that's the truth.
Who was your 2 cousins?
Sonny Krupp and Donna Hover, Fran's daughter, and Rose's son. We were all in school together, all 3 of us. We were all I was born in April, Donna was born in June. I don't know when Sonny's birthday was. I think he failed one year. Mom and Dad were married in 1933. And I remember a picture of them with Red Heindel. They were the best of friends. As a matter of fact, when I was young, I remember going out there to you know where Dad's Hamburger used to be out there on West Main Street? I don't know if it's still there or not, but Red Heindel lived across the street, him and I don't know what her name was. I remember as a child I'd go with them to visit. There were photos, and I think Uncle Jack got some of these photos. Did they have a reception? I don't know anything about all that. And where did your parents live when they were first married? Well, they lived with Grandma all over on Mound Street. I don't know what their social things were and all that. Oh, okay. Your grandparents or parents have died. How old were they, and under what circumstances surrounding their deaths? And where are they buried? Did we go through that before?
We went through that, but
okay, parents Ray and
just
Marie.
that Margaret died of diabetes.
Yes. Okay, Ray and Marie died, and Dad died in 73, and Mom died in 87. Dad was 68 and Mom was 83.
He died of a massive stroke.
Yeah, Dad died of a massive stroke, a heart failure, and Mom died of dementia, Alzheimer's, and they're buried at Rose Hill in Section B. And grandparents Frank and Margaret Nigh and great-grandparent McKenna are at Calvary Cemetery on Possum Road.
And you said some of the relatives died of cancer, just they didn't know what it was back then.
That's right. That was Ed's mother, Fern.
Dad's no.
Yeah.
Ray
And Aunt Mary that I used to go stay with. I'm almost sure that they had cancer. Probably could have been breast cancer. Share with me your childhood days when life was free of grown-up care. Let me look through this memory book and see you standing there. Describe the house that I was living in while growing up. Where was it located? Is it still there? And what years did I live there? Oh, wow. We all know where I grew up. Maybe the great-grandkids will not know. Located at 11 Alden Avenue, off East Main, block east of Florence Street. Yes, the house is still there, and I just go by it all the time and think about how many times I had to paint that damn picket fence. Mosey's Auto across the street, all the Mosey boys. And speaking of Mosey boys, one day I went through Ferncliff Cemetery. Way in the back of Ferncliff Cemetery is this enormous, what do you call them, stone.
Headstone.
Headstone. I can't never remember that word, headstone. And on it is a big wrecker, and it's Jerry Mosey on it. It's awesome. My mother lived there for 34 years. We lived and moved there when I was 4 years old, and I lived there until I was 20 and got married. I moved home one time when Larry and I had a hell of a fight, but I even have a draft of the kitchen of Nanny's house. And how it was laid out.
Mm-hmm.
And beside of it was a big 3-car garage, an enormous driveway. And Dad put us up all a big basketball court. And Kenny Morris, he was an adult, married and had kids. We all played basketball there. Oh, we had some of the toughest, roughest games of basketball you ever did see. What kind of lights, heat, and plumbing did it have? How did you keep cool? Did your family make improvements in our alterations? Back then, Jeanette, we didn't have the humidity that we have now. And you could open a window and it would be cool in the summertime. You didn't need fans or anything else going. But Nanny had a big stove, gas burning stove in the living room. The stove pipe up and it went out the chimney and all that. And we'd sit there and play. That's where we'd sit and play music.
Was Nanny kind of the fix-it person too? Did she ever work on things around the house like plumbing or
No.
Like
Nanny was a very feminine lady. No.
So things
if something's broke, well, the landlord, because she just rented there.
Mm-hmm.
The landlord. You've heard, maybe years ago you might have heard of Wallace and Company. Well, Mrs. Wallace owned that house and owned all three of those corner where that coin shop is now.
Mm-hmm.
She owned all of that. It was Wallace and Company Insurance. And Mom rented from her. I don't think Mom paid very much rent. See, they didn't have fans. The gas stove lighted in the dining room. Kept the whole house warm. I don't think I ever remember being above 90 degrees when I was young. Oh yeah, we got our first refrigerator. After having an icebox for so many years. And it was a gas refrigerator. That's the only way you had got a refrigerator was that back then. They didn't have the electric ones yet. And that heated up the kitchen. And it would heat up the kitchen so doggone much that you just wish, wish we had air conditioner, Oh yeah, and I had my own room up at the top of the stairs. I showed you the layout of the house.
To the left?
And just straight up the steps and straight into the room.
You stayed in the room that
Grandma died
Grandma
in.
died?
Yeah, Grandma Margaret, yeah. I had the room on the top of the stairs where Grandma passed away. I liked the room except for hearing Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Was you there when they carried her out and all that? I mean, do you have memories?
I don't remember that.
You don't.
I just remember going up for the last time to see her. Mom told me, she says, you better go up and see Grandma because she's awful bad. And I remember, I don't know what it was, but her legs were like this. Like she retained water for some unknown reason. And that was the one thing that really got to me. And so then I came back downstairs. I remember just as plain as day going up there. And then I wanted that for my bedroom after Grandma died. I just liked that room. Mosey's garage was across the street, and it was fun to see who came in and went out. To have their car repaired.
So where did Uncle John sleep?
He slept in the back bedroom. See, there's 3 bedrooms up there.
Oh, there was?
Yeah.
And the bathroom?
Yeah, and the bathroom. The bathroom was way at the far end of the upstairs. You could stand out in the yard and see up in the bathroom. And, but we loved the Mosey boys. And then Kenny and Joanne Morris and son Donnie lived in one of the house, and we had movies somewhere of us all playing basketball. And I often heard that Donnie Morris got to be a great pitcher with one of the big ball teams. Oh, I had Mike the cat. Also, I had Freckles, a bagel hound. I went horseback riding every Saturday afternoon. This seems like, how did your family obtain clothing? Were any articles homemade? How did your family obtain milk, eggs, meats, and other groceries? To me, it seems like a dumb question. You know, there was Kroger store. The very first Kroger store, that's where Nanny broke her leg. She left one day. I was there, I think Joni was already born. I was up at Nanny's and we had done laundry and she said she wanted to go down to Kroger's. You know where, let me see, what's in there now? The auto body shop. Not auto body, the auto parts store. Used to be Super X, and it was Kroger's, Super X, and different stores went in there. But anyhow, that's where it was at.
Yeah, we're.
And Mom went to step up on the sidewalk and broke her leg.
I remember Kroger being there.
Yeah, do ya?
Yeah, it was before Drug Castle.
Yeah, that's right, before Drug Castle. And, yeah. And Nanny, and I was at home there with Joni. Oh, it scared me to death. I didn't, somebody come back and told me. So then they took her.
That wasn't the first time she broke her leg.
No, she broke her leg two or couple times.
Let's hear about how she first broke her leg.
Oh, she first broke her leg. She first broke her leg sled riding on that damn big bobsled. Ethan, you should have seen this sled. It seated 7 to 9 people. It was this high off the ground. I mean, it had runners like you wouldn't believe. Someday I'm going to take you up there. The top of Highland Hill right up there. Everybody stopped traffic down there on that Greenmont. On Greenmont Avenue, they'd hold traffic. We would go down, we were doing, I know, at least 70. And Nanny wouldn't let you on that bobsled unless you sat perfectly still. Never said nothing. Never tried to correct or moved at all. You had to be perfectly still. Because the slightest movement made that. And she was the only one in the whole family that could control this sled. You would be going down there, the water was running down your face. I mean, you were froze. You went clear down to the bottom, way down to Warder Street on that doggone thing. I mean, you flew. And finally, just about 3 trips down there, the police would be out. You can't be blocking off Greenmont Avenue to let a sled come by. And then they saw it come down one time. They said, oh my gosh. They would love to have gotten on that sled. You know, these policemen would. They says, but still, we can't do this. You can't block off the street for a sled. Oh my God, we had a ball.
So Nanny was what? How old? 16?
Nanny had me. I was old.
No, when she first broke her leg.
Oh, yeah, when she first broke her leg, they first got the doggone thing. Yeah. Okay, and she had this cast on. Not a cast, but back then they splinted everything. They didn't have the plaster cast yet. So she had it on for, I don't know, probably a couple weeks or something, and somebody wanted her to go to a dance. She had a date of some sort. I don't know whether it was Dad or not. But she wanted to go to a dance, so she took the cast off. And that's the reason that leg of hers bowed out like that. Because she wouldn't leave the cast on. She had to go dance. That's all there was to it. Oh, gosh. There's just so many things Oh, look at here. What did the men in the family do for haircuts? And how did the women get their hair done? How much did things cost? Were there ever unauthorized haircuts? Well, men went to the barber shop, did their own hair, and also gave each other permits. But candy bars were 5 cents. Ice cream cone was 10 and 15 cents. Loaf of bread was 20 cents. A gallon of milk was 29 cents. You're paying $2 and something for a loaf of bread now. How often did you attend Sunday school? Every Sunday. Church with Mom. Had to wear dresses. Had to wear a scarf or a hat for Mass. To church by car. We went to church by car. Describe your cars and trucks you remember as a child. Dad had a lot of different cars. Almost always a station wagon. Oh, I remember his old Studebaker. But when I went, he'd never take me to school or nothing. Of course, he'd be at work by the time it'd be time for me to go to school. And so I had to ride the bus to school every day. So that's where I met Eileen Doyle and all my friends. You know, we all went to school together up to Springfield High. So that was that. I think I was where I rode the bus to school every morning. And I remember telling Mom that I was running away one day. I was probably threatening, and I decided I better not. We all loved radio before television came in because you could listen to radio and just imagine what was going on. The first TVs were round and oval shaped, but some were really good programs. And as I remember, on East Main Street, the pizza places in there now on the corner, but beside there was the first television shop, and I was just a kid. I don't remember. I was probably 12, maybe 10 or 11 or 12. The first TVs came out. So the fellow that owned a television shop invited all of us kids in, and we'd just go in there and sit and watch TV. Milton Berle and all that, all the different shows that were on at that time. All the neighborhood kids would, and that was fun because that was a first. Having the television, that's like computer now. And it says, okay, and there was some things in here I couldn't remember. What stories were written or given to you as a child? I don't remember Mom ever reading to me. I know it says, did you ever have bad dreams or nightmares? I said, yeah, not in my childhood though, but in later on years, I had dreams about bears for some unknown reason. At Halloween, we soaped windows and done all kinds of things. Back then, they had a little round horn button on the cars, back the old cars. So we'd stick a thin board, up underneath the steering wheel and back down underneath the steering wheel, and that stuck the horn on. Then we'd run like hell. Soaped windows. Yeah, oh yes, I got to tell about ball playing in the alley. We played ball in the alley. The little old lady, she had to have been 80 years old, 90 years old, kept taking our ball because one of the boys had hit it in her garden. She really had a collection of our balls. She had to have had 15 balls. So Dad got upset one day. And I was telling him about us losing all of our balls over in her garden and her taking them before we could get up there to get them. So he got his shotgun, went up to see Mrs. Young. He stood there on the porch with the gun behind his leg. I remember just as plain as day. Dad standing there with the gun behind his leg, his shotgun. Says, Mrs. Young, I'd appreciate it if you'd give the kids back their balls. He says they promised me that they'll stay out of the garden if you'll just return their balls. She says, nope, I'm not returning the balls. So Dad says, well, I'm going to shoot your dog. So he pulls out his rifle, or shotgun, aims it at the dog. She said, wait a minute. No, you can't do that. You can't shoot my dog. Dad says, well, I want the balls back or out he goes. He's gone. So Mrs. Young says, well, I'll give them back, but tell the boys and girls to please stay out of my garden. It's a lot of work planting my garden. She did. She really had a nice garden. I mean, it was all up and down the hole, clear back to the alley. But anyhow, we got our balls back. But they still continued to hit the balls over there. And then when I was young, I think about when I go up the leader toffel every now and then, Helen Honeyfinger's up there. When I was a kid, Helen took care of me because Mom worked at Kroll's. I mean, I was a little tyke. I don't ever remember Helen taking care of me, but evidently she must have. But I'd see her at Liedertafel and at Oktoberfest and different things, the 4th of July, and she never forgot me. And every time I go up there, she'd always seem to be there. Okay, who was your best friends? And how'd they meet? And where are they now? And did you ever have any imaginary friends? I can't say I had any imaginary friends, but I had many friends. My best friend was Carolyn Williams. We went roller skating all the time together. Toby, and I didn't know Gayle then, because John had met Gayle at the skating rink, I guess. But anyhow,
Toby who?
Virginia Childs. You know, Toby. Her name was Virginia Hawk, her maiden name. And but she's a friend of Gayle's. I mean, her and Gayle went to school together. But see, Gayle's a lot younger than me. She's, 4 years younger than I am. Supervised. But anyhow, we skated together and we're all around good friends. I think her last name's McDonald now. Her brother Bob's into the cars like Uncle John is. And I'd had no imaginary friends. I was too busy playing sports. Kick the can, basketball, softball, bicycle, skiing, and sledding. Dad brought me home a pair of skis. All I did was wax them. He brought me this cake of wax, square cake of wax. I'd waxy skis, and you didn't clamp your foot down in them. You just put your foot in these two things that were like this, and your foot slid right in them. And I busted my butt I don't know how many times on Standpipe Hill with these skis. I mean, it's hard to ski. But anyhow, that's what I did. Oh, and we had, of course, I told about jumping off the roof and all that. Billy Conrad lived behind me, and Mr. Conrad gave me my first car, that orange Chevrolet. But anyhow, I was nuts about Billy Conrad. Oh, he was my boyfriend. I often wondered what happened to him and Tony, Bill and Tony. Mrs. Conrad worked down at the field. Big, heavy-set woman, not friendly at all. But Mr. Conrad runs City Service Oil Company. He was head of that. But they were Catholic people, too. And I often wondered what happened to Bill. I was just nuts about him. Oh, coal black wavy hair, I mean, this is when I was 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. Oh, okay, I'm trying to read my book too. My brother John and I played with friends well, but never played together. We done more fighting with each other than we did playing. Yeah. Let's see, did you ever sleep out or camp out? What camping equipment did you use? What did you eat? Did you have a favorite special location? Did you have a memorable experience? Oh my God! A whole bunch of us kids got together. And you know where they're on Bird Road, where they widened the new Bird Road? There's a little creek right there that runs through there. Well, we all decided one Saturday night we were going to take a tent out there and we were all going to sleep out. Mom says, no, you're not. It's going to pour down rain. We said, yes, we are. We got a skillet. We got eggs. We're going to go fry up some breakfast in the morning. Over a fire, we're going to have a fire. We all went. There was Doris Edwards and Patty Monroe and Jack Lancaster and Jim Kilgore and John. And we all went out there. I don't remember whether John went with us or not. I had to have been 13, 14 years old. Maybe 12, I don't know. We went everywhere then. You were free to go anywhere you wanted to. But we went out there and we were just about ready to fall asleep. Man, it started pouring down rain. I mean, it pelted rain. We didn't have no tent. We didn't have nothing. We had like sleeping bags. We all laid down mats and had sleeping bags. Well, Doris said, "This, you'll notice that if you go down Bird Road, where the realist or the jewelry man owns his white big house there and all that land on the left, and Sue Hupp lived up here on the corner. Well, her dad bred horses, and they rode horses because this Doris that was with me rode horses. That's the reason I rode horses. Doris, we camped all together, and we went horseback riding every Saturday. But anyhow, we were all camping out there, and it started pouring down rain. Sue and Doris said, "I know Sue Hupp right up here. We'll just go up there and I'll ask her if we can sleep on her out on her porch." So she went up there, and Sue invited us in. You know, it's just, her and Doris were good friends. So we went up there and stayed all night on her porch. And I went home and I told Mom, I said, "You were right. I'll never do that again." I said, "We absolutely had a ball, and and they were breeding a horse, and I had never seen anything like that before. And they asked us if the boys, they didn't care about anything like that, but I did. I went out to the barn, and Mr. Hupp told me, he says, 'Now stay back now. Don't get close, you know. Horses will kick. They're mean.' And I watched just, enough to, I didn't want to stand there and watch the whole thing, but it was really fascinating. Really, really fascinating. Oh, and the next morning, after it stopped raining, so we fried our eggs, all seven. There was 7 of us. Yeah, there was 7 of us. See, I wrote this in 2008, so I can remember it. Oh, were you ever a Girl Scout? Oh, yes, I was a Girl Scout, and I hated it. I still got my pin somewhere. No, I didn't belong to any clubs, or I never went to camp. Did you have a tricycle or a wagon? Yes, I imagine I learned to ride myself. My favorite bike was a Western Flyer. Mom always went to Western Auto and got our bicycles for us. Me and John both. John had to have his apart in 50 million pieces before Mom even hardly got it home. I tried my hand at skiing. What winter athletics did you participate in as youth? Were there special occasions and there was winter activities? And what equipment did you use and where'd you get it? Okay, I got one to tell you. St. Mary's Hill, if you ever come down, what is that? Main Street, West Main Street, past Western and come down this way, St. Mary's Church is right here. Well, we used to go up there and sled ride on that hill. There's a Blessed Virgin Mary statue up there. It's Montgomery Avenue, goes in like that. Dad says, I think it would be fun if I made skis out of barrel staves. You know what a barrel stave is, shaped like that. We took the metal off of them, put leather straps on the sides of the barrel staves, and thought he was going to ski down this hill up there at St. Mary's. Jack Whip and Teen and me and Mom. John was little, but I was pretty good size then, if I remember right. He busted his ass. I mean, Dad damn near killed himself. I says, "Dad, you can't ski on something like that. It's not waxed, you know." He said, "Well, I thought I could." We never laughed so hard in our life. That was the most hilarious thing I ever did. And then on up the street is the KFP home up there. KFC or KFP home. Knights of Pythian. Ernestine and Jack and us, Jack and Teen would come in and we'd all go sled riding. And we'd come down that hill up there on shovels, on metal snow shovels. You get up the top of the hill and sit down and hold the handle out here like this. And you'd come down that hill just lickety-split. We just had balls doing that. Oh, we'd stay out for hours on end doing stuff like that. Oh, but Dad and that those barrel staves was the funniest thing I ever seen. Oh, Mom gave me a permanent. Mom gave me a permanent, and if you've ever had a permanent, you know you got the solution on your head. It's only supposed to remain there after so long a time. I told Mom I wanted to go sled riding. She says, you can't. You got permanent solution on your head, and if it starts drying on you, you're going to have kinky hair. So what did I do? I said, Mom, I don't care. The boys and girls are all going sled riding, and I'm going too. So I went. That's when I broke my wrist. Had to go up to Dr. Quinn at the new hospital there, Governor's Manor.
Perm solution in your hair?
With perm solution in my hair. Mom tried to get the curlers out. Oh, I wish I looked afro. I had an afro. I wouldn't go to school. I would not go to school. Of course, I had my hand broke too, and I couldn't write or couldn't do nothing. Had this thing all over my hand, like a splint like, with a metal thing over my hand. So yep, I still had this perm solution, really had kinky hair. I was terrible. Says, when did you learn to swim? Nope, I never learned to swim. I hate water. I'll go, but I hate water. Oh, did you have music, dance, or other lessons? Did you play any organized sports as a youth? Yeah, I'm afraid I did. Okay. No music or dance, but I was in all sports. Oh, yes. Charles Abbott, I can remember this just as plain as day, me standing at the kitchen door with Mom. Charles Abbott come up on the porch, and Mr. Kiley. I wish I could remember what Mr. Kiley's first name was. One Saturday and said someone had told them I was really good baseball and asked Mom. And told her they were trying to get enough women players together to start up the Bloomer Girls again. So,
What year?
It does not tell what year, Jeanette. I do not. See, that I wish I knew, because I can't remember. I don't know whether I worked at Olan Mills. I know I was big because I was tall. We would be paid. We traveled mostly in Indiana. There was some nights when we had night baseball and we had to stay in. We didn't exactly play baseball. It was between a hard ball and a softball. It was like about a medium-sized ball. We'd be paid, and we played only on weekends. So I played shortstop. And I remembered, I got paid $5. We got paid $5 for every game we played. We always got beat. I mean, we never won a game. I mean, men against women. But still, we had a good team. They were good. And we'd stay overnight a lot of times. I remember staying with Nancy Pollock. I just wonder if she's still alive. But anyhow.
Did you have drinking and carousing while you were out doing that?
No.
It was a serious...
Oh, this was serious baseball. I mean, yeah. Yeah, you got screamed at or yelled at or whatever. Boy, you didn't do nothing. Did you ever try to smoke? Yeah, I smoked from age 20 to 40. Quit at 40. I figured it was going to kill me or cost me a fortune. When did you learn about the birds and the bees? Well, I guess I learned about that from kids from school. That's what I got written down here, so I must have. I want to tell you, I done this book in 2008. Okay, let's journey back to the school days, the 3 R's and the recess bell. Memories of friends and happy times, of which there's so much to tell. Okay, how old were you on the very first day of school? What was the name of the school? Where was it located? Is it still there? What years did you go to elementary school? How did you go to elementary school? I got to tell you about all this. How far was it from your home? How far would it be from Nanny's over there on Alden Avenue up to St. Raphael's?
That's a pretty good distance.
I was 6. St. Raphael School, the corner of High and Spring Street. It's torn down now. The school was directly across from church. That vacant lot there that they park in now to go to mass, that was where the school was. Big, enormous. It looked like the post office. Big, round school. And it had a playground, all tarred playground, up and all around the back of it. Years 40 through 51. I walked to school every day in the morning. And I roller skated also. And we couldn't roller skate at the cemetery because it's brick. If you'll notice the brick on the Greenmont Cemetery, we'd come down 4th Street, say, go up High Street and walk all the way to school. Clear up to Spring Street, that's where the school was. So we'd walk every morning, walk back every night, because Dad would go to work early and Mom never drove. See, my mother never drove a car. Isn't that weird? As smart as Nanny was, never drove.
Well, wasn't it that she...
Ain't the kids going to really enjoy this?
Isn't it?
They're going to laugh their fannies off, ain't they?
Nanny didn't drive because didn't she almost get hit by a train? Her car stalled on the tracks, or...
Oh, I didn't know that. Did she tell you that?
Nanny told me that when I was little. I asked why she never drove.
Oh, no. Really?
She had a car that stalled on the tracks, and there was a car coming, and a guy behind her pushed her out of the way. She said it scared her so bad she never got back behind the wheel of the car.
Wow. Wow.
I don't know if she told any of the other kids that, but
Yeah.
I thought it was odd she didn't drive.
But can you imagine roller skating all that way to school and back
You
again?
have some serious athletic legs.
Yeah. 8 classrooms. See, that's the reason I say it. My knees are in such bad shape. It's no wonder. I mean, look at all I've done in my lifetime. Round cement block building with 8 classrooms, 32 students. Was in
32 students in one class.
Yeah. Which member of the elementary teachers? Do you have a favorite, least favorite teacher? Why? Yeah, I got one. A least favorite. So I went to. So they changed what do I want to say? The district. They changed the district. So when I was in the 6th grade, I had to go because I was in a certain district. Everybody else was on that side. I was on this side. So I had to go to St. Bernard's in the 7th grade. 7th and 8th grade. Okay. Where'd you eat lunch? Bring your lunch to school. Ate lunch at school. Cannot remember. What were your favorite and least favorite subjects?
And you was talking about the teacher you
Yeah. Okay. When I was in the 8th grade, and I'd done this thing on my arm, and I missed a lot of school because of my hair. What I'd done to my perm when I went sled riding. She failed me. So I went home and I told Mom, I says, I failed. She says, you what? I said, I failed, Mom. Oh, I remember this. And Mom says, you didn't fail. I says, yes, I did, Mom. I said, I'm not going back. Sister Mary Aidan, I hated her. I just hated her. She was so mean. So I told Mom, I says, I'm going to Schaefer. Mom says, you are? I says, yep, I'm going to Schaefer. So I went to Schaefer. I goes out there and Mr. I know his name. Wait a minute. Maybe I got it here. Anyhow, a very wonderful man. He says, you failed in the 8th grade. I says, yeah, I broke my arm. I says, I won't tell you the rest of it, but I broke my arm. I had this perm stuff on my head and I wouldn't go to school for 2 weeks. Anyhow, he just got to laughing. He says, Sue, he says, we're going to go ahead and put you in the 10th grade. He says, you're smart. I've done some testing and stuff there. And he says, you're smart. We're going to go ahead. I mean the 9th grade. They're going to go ahead and put you in the 9th grade. You'd be far ahead of us being in the Catholic school. So that's what I did. So
what was the story you told me once about the nun that smacked the kid, saying that he tripped her and...
Oh, no, that was Nanny. Nanny told that.
Oh.
Yeah. See, the nuns wore the black habits with the white, up here, like Sister Karen did when she came to see me. Okay. And they had these rosaries. They had the black habits, long black habits, and these old leather, old lady shoes. Now I fall. These old lady shoes, and the rosary hung down like this, and I mean it was a long rosary. It hung to the floor. Well, she was walking along the desk, and her rosary got caught on the desk, and she was moving real fast. Well, it threw her directly to the floor. When it threw her to the floor, she told one of the kids they tripped her. Excuse my blanket, but I got it under my blanket. It's 20 degrees outside. So anyhow, she accused one of the kids of knocking her down. So I guess they transferred the nun to another school. They proved that what happened to her, and she was just a really terrible nun. But I loved it down St. Bernard's. Anyhow. Oh, I went to high school, and one boy in my class was named Van Cliburn. And he was a concert pianist. And Van Cliburn is one of the most famous pianists. I am not too sure, but I think he's one of the teachers at Carnegie Hall in New York. But he was concert pianist, and he traveled all over the world. A really nice guy. I just loved him. But at Schaefer Junior High, I walked to and from. But no, I didn't graduate. No, teachers in junior high, no. Yeah, I played sports. Oh yeah, and I played basketball for Springfield High.
Did you have a number when you played ball, or it was just...
No, you just played.
You just wore black?
Yeah, black and white. You had bloomers on with knee-high like socks. I mean, go up to your knees, and your bloomers come down like this way, were tight. You wore a white T-shirt. I got pictures someplace, but I think Uncle Jack must have got them. Okay, let's see. The Wildcats were blue and gold. Let's see. It says, what were your high school mascot and colors? Do you remember the school song? I don't remember the school song. But I went to a lot of the games. Wore poodle skirts, slim-fitting clothes. Slacks were not in style. You dressed well in school, even in public.
Let's discuss the cheerleading.
Oh, well, yeah, I was cheerleader in the 8th grade at St. Bernard's. Yeah.
Was that with the frizzy hair?
No, I didn't have the frizzy hair then. I had finally gotten better with the hairstyle. Yeah. Oh, who were the teen idols during your high school years? I don't think there was any teen idols. The songs were Doris Day, Patti Page, Perry Como, Pat Boone. I never went to dances. John and Gayle used to do things like that. I never did. I never cared about that. I was into too many sports. I just loved sports. I was a nut about sports. They had what they called El Sam. They called it El Sam, E-L-S-A-U-M. And I could show you where they always had it, right there on High Street. But that's where they held the dances there. It was just a high school thing. Okay, let's see. How we skated at the skating rink. Did your friends have cars or trucks in high school? How much did vehicles and gasoline cost? Oh, get this, 32 cents a gallon for gasoline. In 1954. No cars, nobody had cars, and we rode the bus. I suppose the rich kids might have had vehicles at the time, but it didn't matter to me. I wasn't into that kind of thing. I skipped more high school than I was there. I hated school and went to work at Olan Mills at 16. The truant officer came to the house so many times after me because I never went to school, and I just got a work certificate and went to work. Went to work at Olan Mills down right there beside the post office when I was 16. Worked in the art department. The truant officer came to the house so many times, Mom and Dad were friends. I thought he was a bastard. What do you remember about special events like homecomings, prom, school plays? I never cared a damn thing about that. Who did you date during high school? I never dated anybody. I never cared about boys. I just wanted to play ball and stuff. Do you have any? Yeah, I do have a school yearbook. I think I got done packed it away. What was its title? Which individuals were designated as the most popular? Yes, I have a yearbook someplace. The only one in my high school most popular were the rich. How was I characterized? Just my picture. I think mine is 10th grade yearbook. Did you receive any awards or special recognition for high school activities? No awards. But we won the state championship in basketball. Springfield High did. That's the only time in the history of Springfield High that they ever won, or any one team ever won it here. Was school ever canceled because of weather conditions? Yeah. At the time we had it snow up to, how old was I? 16. We had it snow that would have been up to this windowsill. Biggest snow was 1976. I think it was 76. Maybe, yeah, 70 something or another. Okay, no comment. Did not graduate. Reunions.
Are you talking about the blizzard of 78?
Yeah, 78.
That's when I was little.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, you married Ed, or not? You hadn't married Ed yet. We lived on Prospect.
No, this was way back, Jeanette. Because I've still lived at home. I was still a kid.
Well, the blizzard of 78 was when the whole town shut down.
Yeah. Well, I remember one that was really, really high. Chores, jobs, and money. You provided for your family and showed how much you care. And do you want to rest? And okay. What inside and outside chores did you do when you were growing up? Oh my God! What chores did other members of the family did? What were the consequences if you didn't do them? Who and what was involved in spring cleaning? Well, I did everything outside for Mom and Dad. Gardening, painting, the picket fence, every 2 to 3 years. I did not ask to do anything. I just saw it needed to be done. I helped and did it. Myself, I'd always been proud to say that I was a good daughter to Mom and Dad. How much and often did you receive an allowance or payment for chores? I did not receive a payment for chores as long as John and I got our ice cream cones and sodas. Back then it was wrong to ask for money for anything you done. It was expected of you. I wish times hadn't changed so much. What type of jobs were available during your childhood and teenage years? Well, my first job was at Olan Mills in the art department. I think I made $2.35 an hour. And that was good. I worked 40 hours and sometimes 48 hours. And after I'd been there for a long time, Carolyn Williams, my best friend, said a neighbor was asking about me because I was Catholic and would I want to work in the laboratory at White Motors. I said, yeah, I'd love to do something like that, although I had no science, no laboratory work of any type. So I went to work at White Motors in the laboratory with Joe Bennett. We had ovens, and we would melt the steel to see whether it was strong enough and hard enough for for these giant motors. We made motors that was large as this room. You never seen engines like this, really beautiful engines. That's what White Motors did. I could never understand how they ever went out of business.
Were they used in like ships? or-
Yeah, everything. They had furnaces. I went in the foundry. I hated to go out of the laboratory because the guys wouldn't leave me alone. I mean, I'd walk up to the office with some papers or something, and they'd carry on terrible. And it embarrassed me because I was a young Catholic girl, and things like that didn't happen back then, you know. I mean, okay, after being there for 4 years, some friends had told me at Olan Mills, told me about the laboratory job at White Diesel in Sheridan. So I went to work there at much more money. I wish I'd have stayed. I met your father and got married. Sorry day, except that look at what I got, 7 wonderful lives. Who prepared your family when you were growing up? Your family meals when you were growing up? Describe the kitchen. Mom, our first refrigerator was an ice box. Mr. Byerman, did I get into this before? I thought I had. Okay, Mr. Byerman delivered ice, and he'd give me and John a big chunk with newspaper. We'd have our newspaper already. He'd give us chunks of ice, and it would be hot, hotter than the devil, like 90 degrees. And we'd sit and eat this ice till our lips were purple. And then we'd show it to Mom. Are you all right? Are you all right? Mom would say, are you all right? Mom did the laundry and I helped every Monday. It was done in the kitchen and hung out on the lines to dry. And in the winter, it was hung in the basement. Well, there was no heat in the basement. So you can imagine what your clothes looked like after they dried. And you put them on. They were stiff as a board. Because there was no furnace down the basement. You know, we got coal. I mean, there was an old coal chute. Do you remember being at Nanny's house? Did you ever go down the basement? I bet Julie and them have. I bet they'll remember it. There was an old coal chute there on the side of the house, by the alley. And a big metal covering over the window.
If I was ever there, they probably threw me down it.
Oh, they probably did, without a doubt. If you had a garden, who planted and cared for it? How was produce harvested, preserved, and stored? Well, Mom never did anything like that. She had a beautiful flower garden. My mother loved flowers. But she said she would not attend a garden. You could get produce at any store cheaper than you could plant it. Had a cat, Mike, yellow-white, always outside. Mom would never let the cat inside. Had a big old dog named Freckles, my favorite feller. Gosh. Oh, I got to tell you a story. Freckles had a beautiful dog home. Dad and I built it. We painted it white. It was really nice. Mosey's Auto Center was across the street. I don't know whether I told anybody this or not. I probably have. This guy had pet skunks in this semi-truck. He had pet skunks. They had been smelled and everything, you know.
What would you call that, deodorized?
Deodorized, I guess. So anyhow, Jerry Mosey brought these 2 skunks over to Mom and says, Marie, he said, it's really important. This guy has got really bad trouble with his truck, and we're going to have it for a couple days. Do you suppose you could take care of these skunks? Now, this guy told me that they could die on you because they are very difficult to raise. So we had these skunks, but believe me, you can take the deodorizer out of them, but they still stink. Anyhow, we kept these skunks. Well, one died. It wasn't but a couple days. They still hadn't had the truck. They couldn't get the parts for it. Well, the second one died. Mom felt just terrible about this. She'd done everything she could for these 2 skunks. This guy This guy, it didn't bother him any, though. He said, oh, I'll get others. You know, he said it's no big deal. But Mom says, I treated him with good care. You know, she said, I tried to do everything for him, just like you told me to do, you know. But just, oh, there's so many things happening in my life that if I don't write it down, I just forget about. Now, I didn't write that down. That's not in here. Okay, we were poor in the winter months, and Dad could only lay brick on days above 45 degrees. Back then, they didn't have the salamanders. I think we read about this earlier. So that's the reason I went to work at 16. I thought I could help Mom and Dad out, bring home my money every week, and so there were things we weren't able to do or obtain because your family couldn't afford them. How was that explained to you? Oh yeah, Dad one year for Christmas gave John and we thought it was a big deal to have silver dollars. So Dad brought us home, I think it was either 25 or 50 silver dollars apiece for Christmas. John and I says, this is a hell of a thing to get for Christmas, ain't it? I says, yeah, it is. I says, what the hell can you do with, 25 silver dollars? I said, well, you could go spend them, but it's silver dollars. So I just kept mine. I kept mine. I thought, what do I need it for? There's nothing I need to buy or nothing. So I kept mine, but I ended up and gave it back to Mom because Dad was out of work. She needed the money to buy groceries and stuff. So that's what I did with mine. But I always felt like, knowing John, he spent his, But I always felt like I lost out that Christmas. It's just something I never forgot. I ended up giving mine to Mom to pay bills to eat, and that hurt me all my life. It's something you never forget. It's not that I was selfish, but I consider the gift given is yours to do with as what you see fit. Okay, do you remember jobs or occupations from the youth that no longer exist today? Oh boy, did your family members or relatives have such jobs? Soda jerks. Oh my God. Okay, we used to go up to, Katie worked at Whitaker's, and it was a soda fountain where you make milkshakes and all kinds of stuff. They had a regular soda fountain, So we'd go up there and Mom would give us money. Every day we had to have a big ice cream cone. Every day, John and I. We was just little shits. Katie Schneeberger worked for Joe Whitaker. I know what was going on, but, but she worked for him. She would give us ice cream cones that looked like this. I mean, they were ice cream cones. And she'd say to us, now look, you walk down the alley and you see Joe Whitaker coming, you put them damn ice cream cones behind your ass. She'd cuss like a skunk. Oh, she's terrible. And I'd see her up here at Leadertoffel, Katie, or I'd see her over at the Moose. She'd go over there to bingo when the softball team to gamble. When the softball team would come over there to the Moose, they'd rent the hall. We would all go to help support whatever it was the Moose supported. And Katie'd be over there gambling. I'd say, Kate, remember the ice cream cones? Kate says, Sue, go sit down. Go sit down, Sue. Oh, God. Oh yeah, when I went to St. Raphael's High School, okay, I would take 25 cents a day, and we bought what we called bonds. We took 25 cents to school once a week to buy bonds. All that money totaled up to $18, and you could buy a bond, and when you cashed it in 10 years, 15, 20 years, you got $18 out of it. And that helped the government pay for ammunition and stuff like that. That's what we did. It helped buy airplanes and bomber artillery for the serviceman. Describe the first time you borrowed money. Did we do this one? My own car was financed. My station wagon had the back seat turned around. Oh, yes. The back seat turned around. The girls had the boys following my car all around town. They would sit in the back with their, like, opposite of what you do in your mother's. The back was facing towards the back window. I could roll the window down if I wanted to. And they'd sit back there, and all the guys would be driving around behind us wherever we'd go, checking out Julie or Jamie and Jeanette and Julie.
Not me, I was too little.
Okay. Oh, yeah, when I worked at Olan Mills and Larry and I were first married, we lived up on East High Street. Yeah. Describe, and that's thawed off yet? Now,
It's there.
my father, oh, I'm talking to Ethan about something he's trying to thaw. How did your parents earn a living when you were growing up? Describe their prominent. Dad was a bricklayer.
That was already in there.
Yeah. What memories do you have of them coming home from work? How did your parents relax after work?
Read the paper.
Yeah, just watch TV and that. Okay, what has been your primary occupation as an adult? How'd you choose a job and what basis have you been paid? Describe the likes and dislikes of your job. Other than salary, what benefits has your primary occupation provided? Well, I made baby caskets. I was talking to my insurance man about that, what I done in my lifetime the other day. Making baby caskets weekly. I love my job. Some days we were very busy and other times we were not. I learned an awful lot about carpentry, which I did. Some of this in this book doesn't concern me. Have you hired? Describe your workplace. Who are the dumbest and the most popular or smart people you've worked with? Who are the best and worst bosses you had? Well, I thought the dumbest was Bob Bennett at White Motors in the lab. He knew his job, but he didn't have any smarts. The most memorable person I worked with is Elizabeth. She was so hilarious. Liz falling through the floor at the casket company. Homer took me to Kentucky to get my teeth. They were going to send my teeth to me through the mail. Yeah, I've had these suckers for almost 50 years. They were going to send my teeth to me through the mail. Homer decided I didn't get my teeth. I went down there and had them fit, but in 14 days I was going to get my teeth through the mail. So Homer took me down there to get them. We come back up through Lebanon. He says, we're going into the Golden Lamb to eat. Me without any teeth? The Golden Lamb is a, elite place to eat. Oh, I felt like hell going in there. I was dressed nice and no teeth. It didn't bother Homer none. He didn't care. Here am I with a toothless woman. Oh, God love him. I got to remind him of that when I go to breakfast with him. Okay. This is the primary occupations, employers of your sisters and brother. Brother John at Coca-Cola for years, and Gayle a homemaker and physician secretary. Okay. Have you or a family member ever been involved with the union? A strike or picket line? Yeah, I tried to get the union into Woodrow. It didn't work. My father was a strong union man, building trades council, secretary, bricklayer unions, president. Secretary. What's the most you have won, lost gambling? Describe when and where and how you gambled. Oh, I went down there to the Watchman jig with Julie and Alan. And I was playing this Dean Martin machine. All of a sudden, Dean Martin come on singing. Oh, God, you got to ask Julie what he was singing. Julie knows. All of a sudden, he come on this singing. Do-do, do-do, do-do. Oh, I won. I thought, oh, God, maybe I won $10,000. I won $50. Yes, I bought a lottery ticket, and I won $26,000. Yes, I buy a lottery ticket now and then. No special numbers. But I have got my own numbers now. Who was your first date? How old were you? What did you do? Do you remember your first kiss? Do you know what? I never had a date. My first date was with your father. My first kiss was at a Halloween party, and we played Spin the Bottle. That was at St. Bernard's, I think. I
Well,
kissed...
you Catholic people were risky.
Yeah, I kissed Jackie Heim. Oh, was nuts about him. And I think he's a priest now.
What
Do you
was the
think my
first-
kiss had anything to do with him joining the priesthood? That's what I wrote. That's what I wrote. Do you think my kiss had anything to do with him going into the priesthood? I really liked him. He was cute, and I can still remember what he looks like. Who was your first love? How old were you? What attracted you to them? And what was their attitude towards you, and where are they now? My first love was my first husband, my children's father. I was 18 and married at 20. I think he's somewhere in Florida. I hope he's deceased. He is now, we know. What was your first boy-girl party or social function? Oh, guys, this was wonderful. I had to join the altar Solidarity Club at St. Bernard's in my 8th grade, my 8th grade, when I was cheerleader. So we had this thing where you had to walk this plank blindfolded, and they had like eyeballs and just all kinds, like spaghetti and a liver. They had all this stuff. It was Jell-O, hard Jell-O. They said it was liver, and you felt all this stuff when you were. But that's what I had to do at St. Bernard's in my 8th grade. I did not go on dates, but I roller skated at Hodges Rink for years and rode the bus to and from the skating rink. What was your most embarrassing thing that happened to you on a date? Oh, you all know that. My first date with Ed. Were there family members who cramped your dating style? Were there ever third wheels or unwanted company on dates? My first date with Ed. We were going dancing, and I got in his car, and he had some type of aroma, like lilac or something hanging down from his mirror. I sneezed and lost my dentures on the floor. He politely told me to pick up my dentures and put them back in. And he handed me his handkerchief to clean them with. And you know what? I was so embarrassed. But you know what? I said, this is the man for me. Excuse me laughing so hard. But that's the truth. I swear by everything holy, that's the truth. We were going to her sales. Whole bunches of us. We were all
Was
going
this the same date where he put you had a cowlick and he licked his hand and he pushed down your cowlick and you had butterscotch in your hair?
I forgot about that. Remember, oh, Julie loves this. Every time we'd go someplace, I always had a cowlick because when I'd sit in a chair, because Julie did it to me the other day. We went into Bob Evans. Mom, I got to correct your hair. You must lean back in your chair. Anyhow, I said, what rules did oh, okay. But Ed always sucked on butterscotch to keep from having a reaction because of his diabetes. So he'd lick his fingers like that, and he'd pull down on my hair like that. Do you know I got some butterscotch in my purse right now? What rules did your parents establish when you began socializing? Did you have a curfew? I had no rules. I was a good kid, and my parents knew that. Did you have a lover's lane? That's where your father and I first met, was Lover's Lane.
That's where you first met?
Yeah. When and where did you
Were
meet?
you with other people?
Oh, no. How old were each of you? What was your first impression of each other? Was it love at first sight? The skating rink, I was 18. And he was 4 months younger than I was, so he was 18 also. I admired him for a long time. I asked him to skate. He said he didn't think he could skate that well. So I said I didn't mind. So we became friends, and he had no car, neither did I, and we lived on each different ends of town, so we met at the skating rink. What's your first date with your spouse? When did you realize you were falling in love roller skating? He would borrow a friend's old 32 Roadster, and we would go for a drive. He told me he loved me and wanted to get married. I knew that I loved him. What were your mother and father's name, full names, and dates of birth? I don't know.
did that.
I don't know about that. I don't remember our first argument either. How long did you date before we dated for 2 years before we got married? Wouldn't I had sense by then? Not to have married him. But just look what I would have missed. Oh, baby! Now I stopped. Now that I stop and think about it. I'm just joking. I love you. Oh, God, what would I have done if I didn't have all of you? Okay, they didn't say. They probably were glad to be rid of me. Oh, what did your parents say about getting married? Marriage. How did you get along with your future in-laws? How did your spouse get along with your family? What did your friends think of your future spouse and your engagement? Well, they didn't say. I thought they were probably glad to get rid of me. Although I did a lot at home, I got along with Mother well. My family never said I didn't have any. I didn't have any friends at that age. They were all married. When, where, and where were your sisters and brothers married? John and Gayle were married over in Liberty, Indiana.
And where'd you get married?
Liberty, Indiana.
You did too?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I didn't want no big wedding, none of that crap.
What was with Liberty, Indiana?
Right across the state line. You could go right over there to the Justice of the Peace and get married.
Oh, you didn't have to wait for a license? Or...
Yeah. What was your wedding date? January 22nd, 1954, a pretty day. We just wanted to be married. Where were you married? And what were you wearing? I wore a blue suit. Where did you live when you were first married? Describe your first home and neighborhood. Well, we moved on Prospect. Nice place, neighborhood. Our rent was $125 a month. Mr. Conrad gave me an old Chevy. That was our first car. No celebrations. Memories of my children are magical to me and a pleasure I now recall. The things we did during the wonderful days when they were still quite small. Please list your children's names, birth date, and I've got all that down. The year you were born and so on and so forth. Baby book of names. How did you choose their names? The baby book of names. How far did you live from the hospital? How did you get to the hospital? Lived about 15 blocks from the hospital. Were your children born early or late in the relation to the anticipated due date? I don't know. Born pretty close to the time of the due date. Doctors are deceased. We had insurance, no cost. Where was Dad?
You had a miscarriage.
Yeah, I had a miscarriage somewhere. Oh, I had a miscarriage when I worked at Woolworths. I went to work at Woolworths between Jennifer and... We separated for a long time, your dad and I. Was it between... I don't remember. Maybe I've got it in the book. Where was Dad during the deliveries? What were the first comments and reactions you and your spouse shared at the children's birth? He was in the service during the first 3 births. No cigars, just lovely children. When did you tell your parents and in-laws they were going to be grandparents? Who knows? I don't remember.
7 times? You have to remember 7
Yeah.
times.
What changes occurred in your life and marriage when your first child was born? No change, just enjoyed having children. I spent a lot of time with my children. How did you and your spouse earn a living when they were born? I was a homemaker and worked at White Motors. He was in the service. We lived at Prospect Street. And I had help from Mom and Dad. What physical and personality change did your children inherit from you and your spouse? I like to think they're caring and responsible children. They are all of different personalities. Do not remember special gifts. Yeah, but I do not remember any special gifts as we bought our own for each child and had a lot of hand-me-downs. Did you get baby furniture for your children? Were there special items such as cribs or high chairs? Do you still have any of these items, or you know where they are? No. We bought special items, or they were handed down. Do I have any left? Oh, Lord, no. Did any of your children have special or funny baby names for people, places, possession, their body parts, or their functions? Well, not to my knowledge, except for Nanny, calling Nanny Grandma Whip, Nanny. Were your children ever baptized or christened? When, where, and by whom? Who were the godparents, or were they chosen, or where are they now? Did these events have special meaning or special clothing? No, not really. The only ones that were baptized were Jennifer in later years. Jeanette was also baptized, but I don't know where. Where did your children sleep when they were babies? Were they bedtime activities, including lullaby stories and rocking chairs? Did they have special stuffed animals or blankets? Oh, they all had their own beds.
I had Miss Beasley.
They had lullabies, and they had stories and rocking chairs, and we sat out on the front porch on Prospect Street for hours on end. It must have been midnight at some nights, on weekends and that, where we sang lullabies and told stories and nursery rhymes.
Did Joni have a favorite doll?
Joni had yeah. I can't remember what she was called. I can't remember her favorite doll. But I do not believe any of them except Jeanette, who still wraps her thumbs in her sheets and still does in 2012, 14.
Now wait a minute. Jamie had Willie talk and she fed it bologna.
Oh, that's right. Jamie had ventriloquist dolls. I forgot about that. And fed it bologna. It no longer worked. Had the Cabbage Patch dolls? I don't.
That was Jessica and Ashley.
Oh, was that
was
Jessica and
later.
Ashley?
I had Mrs. Beasley.
You had Mrs. Beasley. Yeah. What were your?
Did Guy and Larry have favorite toys?
A guy was always into space, and he's still into space. He'll love I said that. No. One thing about Guy, he could tell you about every plane there is, everything in space travel and everything. But anyhow, what were your children's eating and sleeping habits as babies? Were they bottle or breastfed? What kind of diapers they were? Did Dad help with feeding baths and diaper changes? Dad was never home. Yeah, but they all slept good. I breastfed Joni, but she was the only one. They wore cloth diapers, plastic pants, and Dad did absolutely nothing. Do you have memories of your baby's first words and first steps? Do you have memories of their first childhood? There were so many of them, I could never remember that. Bronze shoes, spoons, or cups? No, I really don't remember. Your children have been baby contests or anything? No. Did you have special baby books of your children? Oh yes, we have many, many photos. How were your children potty trained? Was there a special potty chair? How old were they? And what were the funny stories about the process? Oh, there was potty chair. Probably by the age 2, the girls were broke, but the boys, I had a terrible time getting them broke. I'd get really upset because they had a tendency to upset each other on the potty chair. Did your children have nicknames? Who gave them nicknames? How and when and why? And did your children accept their nicknames? Well, the only nicknames were Guy for John. I called Larry Little Fat Tubbs because he was so stocky built when he was little. Jamie's Mimi. Jennifer is Jenny. Jeanette is Nettie K. We called Joni Joan most of the time. Called Julie Jewel. And called Nanny. Well, Nanny was called Dia, but we called her Nanny. Did any of your children have health problems, childhood illnesses, accidents, or scary incidents? Well, no health problems really. They all had the measles and the mumps or the chicken pox. Jeanette had a bad accident while swinging on a bar. Neighbor boy pushing her. Had her left arm in surgery with pins and rods by Dr. DeBoo. And what she broke was her growth bone. But it healed. And Joni was playing ball in the basement with a bunch of kids, Guy and everybody, and stood on a ball with her foot and broke her tibia. And the only thing good about that was Joni says she'd go to high school on crutches and all the boys would have to carry her books. Who were the children's first babysitters? Where'd you go and how long were they gone? Are there funny, memorable babysitter stories? Did your children have a favorite or least favorite babysitter? Oh, they had their grandmother Nanny, and they loved her very much. But boy, could they get away with murder with Nanny. What were the children's favorite toys? When and where did they get them? And do you have any of them or know where they are? Let's see, you kids had a bunch of variety of toys. Oh my God, if we couldn't buy it, we made it. We had big wheels around the house on Prospect Street, going around in circles. All I did was paint the walls and the woodwork. Roller skates and the horses that galloped up and down the street with springs on their feet. You had carts, you had 2x10 boards with wheels on them that you coasted down the hill. And
Jamie had a big wheel.
And
I had a big wheel.
yeah, it had big, that's what I said there, 3 big wheels around the house.
Remember the wheel came off the big wheel?
No, I don't remember that.
And got Jamie in the face.
No, I don't remember that.
She was
I do not
messed up.
remember that. Yeah, she had a bad cut, didn't she?
And didn't she get hit in the face with a telephone, one of those play telephones too? Someone threw it.
I don't remember that. But anyhow, they had springs on their feet, and I do not have anything left, but I think Jamie still has that galloping horse. I think Jamie got one at an auction sale or someplace, and she put it up in her attic. Did the kids have their own bedrooms or share? They all had their own bedroom with bunk beds. What fun and embarrassing things did your children do or say in public? But I'm sure, I don't remember, but I'm sure they did. They attended Sunday school, they did it with their friends. What activities or games did your spouse play? Did you or your spouse play with your children when they were toddlers? What did they enjoy the most? Do you have memories of special activities or games? Oh, we cooked out a lot. We made swimming pools. We had stilts. We had carts. Made our own ice cream. We made our own ice cream. One time we made strawberry and Julie got the hives really bad. That was terrible. Went to the drive-ins to see all the Disney movies, took our own snacks and our own sandwiches. And Julie was always afraid if I fell asleep, we'd never get home again. She told me this in later years. She didn't tell it to me when we were young, when I was young. What pets did your children have, and where did you get them, and who named the pets, and how were the names chosen? Who took care of them? Are there special or memorable stories about the pets? We'll have to talk about Julie's dog, Fluffy. He followed her to Schaefer every day of the week and came back home, right back home. Well, one day the neighbors that originally had Fluffy, he lived down there with Susie's Camarucci. And one day the original people that owned him come after him because Camarucci's were moving. So they took him, and I told Julie when she came home from school, and she just cried and cried. Fluffy's gone. One day, we were coming down Bechtel Avenue, and I wanted to avoid the traffic, and I turned left on Broadway. I was going south, and then I was going to go east on Broadway Street. And I had my old brown station wagon, and I was going up the road, and who did we see sitting on the porch but Fluffy, on the people's porch. He saw that station wagon, and he darted after that station wagon, and Julie cried, "Mom, you gotta stop, I want to take Fluffy home. I gotta take Fluffy home." I says, "Julie, we can't stop because the dog belongs to these people. They came after it when Camarucci's moved. And we can't take the dog." "But I want it." Oh, she was just screaming and carrying on. So, we put Fluffy in the car, and he stayed with us for the rest of his life. Followed Julie to school, continued to follow Julie to school, and I don't remember him dying or anything about it. I just know he was always Julie's dog. Oh, yeah, the other pets we had were parakeets. We've had to have had at least 14 parakeets, and the kids eventually killed them all. One time, the last one died. He was blue. He was a blue parakeet, and the kids told me in later years, a guy tied a string around his leg and was twirling him around out in the backyard. "Come alive again, come alive again," they said he would say. Oh, I'll tell you, boy, these are memories. Do you have any special memories about first haircuts? Did any of your children ever give or receive unauthorized haircuts? Do you have locks of your children's hair? No, I don't have locks of the children's hair. Larry's buzz cuts. Oh yes, I cut their hairs. We didn't have money to get haircuts. Back then their haircuts were cheap there. And no, I don't have any locks of their hair. Describe your yard when the children were toddlers. Did you have swing sets, sandboxes, and other play areas? What outdoor things did you do with your children during those years?
We had no grass.
Did you have a garden? There was definitely no grass, so there was no worry about having to cut grass. Yes, we had swing sets and played areas, played games, ball. And no, there's no way we would have ever had a garden. How did children get along with other family members and friends as youngsters? Were there sibling rivalries? Who were their first friends and their playmates? They got along well and had a few friends they played in the pit with. Joni had Cindy Johnson. John had Doug Robinson. Jennifer had skating. That was her life. Larry had Beaver, David Adams. Julie had Tanya and Melinda Haneyes. Jamie had Jackie Gibson and all her friends. And Jeanette had April and Tabitha. And I guess Jeanette still keeps in touch with Tabitha.
Del Wallace.
Something. This is fun for me to remember all the fun things that's happened in our lives. Jeanette and I have had a lot of laughs doing this, and a lot of tears. What fun it is to turn back the pages of our family history, to see myself and my children the way we used to be. So I've got a cold, my nose keeps running. Did your children have tricycles or wagons, and how did your children learn to ride their bicycles? Who taught them? Where and did they get their first bike, and what were their special bikes? Oh my God, they had wagons, carts, bikes, skate. Basically, I think they taught themselves. And no special bikes they had. They had tricycles up to bicycles. What outdoor activities did your children enjoy, and where did those activities take place? What equipment did they use? Were there special snowmen and snow forts? Were there family or neighborhood snowball fights? Oh, they played in the snow and sledding, and they had sled and the round plastic or round ditches they slid on the hill across the street.
And cardboard boxes.
On cardboard boxes and and they had snowball fights with Del Wallace. Where did your children attend school, elementary through high school? Describe the facilities and the class sizes. And how far did you live from the schools, and how did they get to and from schools? They went to Warder Park, Schaefer Junior High, and North High School. And when we moved, it was Possum Elementary, Shawnee High School, and JVS. There's about 32 students in each class, at least at elementary school. We lived approximately 15 blocks from school, and they walked or they got a ride to school. How'd your children do academically or socially in school? Did they have favorite, least favorite subjects or teachers? They did well in school. No, most of the teachers they did not like, although there were a few they liked. What special activities did your children have? Are they musically and artistically or athletically inclined? I will have to say that my children all have special abilities and talents. I am also very proud of all my family and my extended family. All I need to do is call, and they're right there at my house. From whom do these interests, skills, or talents inherited? How were their talents developed? Did they receive any recognition for their accomplishments? Jeanette, her artwork, computer tech and graduate associate's degree at Clark Tech. Jamie, she sews, sends items all over the world. Her ability is outstanding. Julie, she's so humble and oh so caring. Animals, ability to sew and to decorate. Larry, God sure gave him a gift. He can do everything. Jenny, she's caring. Love her to pieces. We are really lucky to have her after all she's been through. Guy, John, he's caring and a loner. He had a fun young life with friends. Joni is loving, caring, artistic, abilities outstanding, loves family. But Gary comes first. What clubs, organizations, sports, and activities did your children participate in? Were you or your spouse involved, and where did those activities take place? The only thing I was a member of the Parents Without Partners for a few years and played games of volleyball and took the children to different things in Snyder Park and so on. Also, I became membership director, and that's how I met Ed. What sorts of mischief did your children get into at home and in your neighborhood? Were there problems with neighbors, and how were your children disciplined? Basically, they were good kids, had many friends and neighbors. I did not accept back talk from any of them, as I had a board And all I had to do was grit my teeth and get the board, and they straightened right up. What sorts of mischief did your children get into at school, and how were they disciplined? Did any specific incident stand out in your memory? One of the kids had their thigh pinched real bad on a teeter-totter. Jeanette was swinging on a clothesline post, and the boy pushing her, and she fell and broke her elbow and growth bone in her left arm. She had rods and pins in her arm, and she spent 8 days in the hospital. Dr. DeBoo, the best orthopedic man in town. And I just understand that he just now retired. Did your children ever run away from home? Did they go alone? Where did they go and how long were they gone? Did your children have a curfew? I think the only one to suggest she ran away from home was Jennifer. She was always in an uproar about something. But I love her so much and miss her terribly. Yes, they all had a curfew. Whether they kept them or not's another matter. What were the children's attitudes about food, clothing, neatness, and privacy? Promptness in their possessions. Were there changes in their attitudes as they grew older? Well, kids' attitudes about food was very good, but they weren't too much into vegetables when they were little. Jeanette was the worst about her jeans. The certain pockets on her jeans made her ass look too big. They were all clean and neat. They didn't have many possessions. 5 girls and their changes in attitudes. Oh boy! What inside and outside chores were your children responsible for while growing up? Were those jobs delegated? What were the consequences of their duties if they're not completed? No chores. Larry and Guy would keep the grass cut, what little grass we had. Okay, let's see, skip that. Did your children have jobs out on the outside to earn money? What were their jobs and how much did they earn? Are they memorable employment stories? Well, Joni worked at Olan Mills for years. Jenny worked quite a while. John was a machinist. Larry was a worker for an insulation. Julie worked at Olan Mills and was a homemaker most of her life. Jamie was a homemaker and went to work at Takuro, she and Jeanette. But no jobs outside of school, although Jeanette worked at the Shoppers News at 16. Describe the neighborhood your children grew up in. Who were your closest neighbors? Were there clubhouses, tree houses, playgrounds, or other specials to play? Oh my God. That's what I wrote in my journal. Oh my God. My kids did not have money, but we made everything. We had swimming pools, ice skating rinks, stilts, go-karts, art supplies and crafts, roller skates, ice skates, basketballs, kickballs. You name it, we had it somehow or another. How did your children learn about the birds and the bees? Did you or your children, your spouse, have a talk with them? Were there memorable or funny questions or reactions? Do you remember when your children first began to express an interest in the opposite sex? They learned about the birds and the bees in school. I always told the boys to keep their penis in their pants and the girls to cross their legs. Did any of your children or friends or habits you did not approve of? How did you address those situations and what were the outcomes? Well, Larry with his glue sniffing, I had years of problems with that. And John with his drinking. I swear I had less trouble with my girls than I had with my boys, I'll have to admit. Did you disagree with your children about fads, hair, or clothing styles? Did your children try to smoke or drink without your permission? No. I let them have free reins on fads and hair and didn't have much money for clothing. All they smoked, but I think that they were basically good kids. It was a totally different time then than what it is now. Did your children go to carnivals, fairs, circuses, or amusement parks? Where and when? What were their favorite rides? Did anyone ever win a prize? Did anyone ever get sick or scared on a ride? Oh, we went to the fairs. I took them to the circus once. Went to Kings Island a few times. They were never in need of amusement. Do not remember about getting sick on a ride, but they all loved the roller coasters. Did your children take family vacations? What were the most memorable places you visited? Are there certain trips or activities that stand out? Are there special souvenirs or photos? No, we did not have money for vacations. My kids entertained themselves doing baseball, skating, kickballs, and so on. There were so many of them that they played together. In other words, they had their own teams for everything. What outdoor activities did you do with your children? When and how did your children learn to swim? When did you go hunting, fishing, or boating, or camping? Did you have special equipment? Are there any big fish stories? I do not think of any of my children could swim. I didn't do any of the above things until later in life, in which we all loved to camp. Describe the house you consider as home when your children were growing up. What years did you live there and how much did you pay for it? Did you make improvements or alterations to the house? What was about the house that made it so special? 1592 Prospect Street. I can't remember how many years we lived there. A lot of years. Paid $125 a month plus utilities. Had to paint all the time and repair the bathtub and other things. What made it home? The children made it home. It was the most wonderful part of my life. The most memorable. You have children and they all your life. If the kids would say, I wish we had a tetherball, I'd find a way to make it. Describe the relationships between your children and your grandparents, your uncles and cousins. What were the interaction on a regular basis? Were there special relationships? Oh, the stories I could tell about their grandparents. Grandpa Ray and his fishing tackle. Okay, and his cow horn. Do you remember his cow horn? How embarrassed Larry and Guy used to be when he'd taken to high school and he turned on that cow horn. Whoa! Nanny was a kid's protector. If I corrected them, Mom would tell me I'm too hard on them. What rules did you have for your children when they began socializing and dating? No, there's a few things. Oh my God. Oh yes, I wrote. What rules did you have for your children when they began socializing and dating? Were there problems with these rules? Do you remember special dates of theirs as prom and homecomings? Do you recall their first loves? Oh my God, I don't want to get into this. Okay, so I skipped a few pages here. Okay, in what ways are your children alike and how are they different? What is the most memorable experience you shared with each of your children? What is your single, most lasting memory of each of your children? Well, I went over this before, but Jeanette, the artist, computer, genius, and mother. Jamie bears animals, sewing, excellent with the children. Julie bears buddies, always kind, willing to give all, loving animals. Larry, Mr. Fix-It, can build, fix, repair, remodel, very intelligent. John Guy, out in space. He loves planes, planets, space shows, very intelligent. Jennifer, independent, loving. Joni, artist, painter, cares deeply about family. So my life is filled with memories, personal things I remember so well, the joys and tears of special times about which only I can tell. Are you musically, artistically, or athletic inclined? Do you have creative abilities? No, wait a minute, I've been through that. Let's go on to this. What was the hottest and coldest you've ever been in situations you have been exposed to extreme elements? I think we did that before when I was telling about coming home on a sled. My feet were froze. Describe your hometown, including notable industries, places, people, and events. When was it established and how was it named, and what did you like and dislike about it? My city Springfield was an industrial city. International Harvester, White Motors, very large engines, diesel engines, Bauer Brothers with pumps, steel products, Kroll Collier Publishing Company, Collier's Magazine. And it was named because on the corner of Kenton Street and Burt Street was a company called Springfield Road Roller. They made road rollers for all over the world. And that's the way they named it, was Springfield. What clubs and organizations have you been a member of? Describe your activities and length of membership. What offices have I held? I belong to the Fraternal Eagles Auxiliary, and I've been a member for 32 years. I'm a loyal member of the Moose Auxiliary, and I've been a member for 24 years. And I've held no offices, only in Parents Without Partners. When and where did you meet him outside your immediate family? Who's had the biggest influence on your life? Well, I did meet Art Linkletter at the hospital when Myrtle died, before Myrtle died. He was there on a speaking engagement at Community Hospital, and someone in the hospital told him that we had a 104-year-old patient there, and he came up to see her. And the person with the most influence on my life was Edward, and the terrible way his life was, and never ever complained. Do you have any personal or family ghost story? Have you ever had a deja vu, ESP, or near-death experience? Have you ever had a good luck charm? Are you superstitious? Oh yes, superstitious. Oh, I've had a deja vu. I was going to Wisconsin with Homer to pick up caskets. I told Homer as we were driving along, I says, there's been a terrible, terrible accident around the curve up here. Just terrible. And Homer says, how do you know? I said, I just know. And as we drove on, about a quarter of a mile up the road was a semi-truck. And it was on fire, the cabin. It had burned completely. They said that the man burned up in it. That really got to me really, really bad. I don't know whether I've ever told anybody about that or not. Okay, what's your favorite color? What is your favorite flower? What is your favorite cologne or perfume? What is your favorite flower of ice cream? What is your favorite dessert? My favorite color is red. My favorite flower is zinnias and marigold. My favorite flavor of ice cream is chocolate ice cream. My favorite dessert is apple pecan cake and pumpkin bars. What is your favorite songs? Who are your favorite singers?
Did you say your favorite color?
Is only in Parents Without Partners. What's your all-time favorite songs, and what's your favorite singers or recording artists? Have you ever met a recording star? My favorite music is What a Wonderful World, Send in the Clowns, Barbara and Celine and Sugarland and Susan Boyle. How did you first learn to dance? What dances have you learned? Which dance is your favorite? I learned to dance in Parents Without Partners. Rock and roll, the chicken dance, Charleston, and so on. What is the all-time favorite gift you have ever received? When did you receive it and who gave it to you? Why was it so special? What was the best gift you ever gave to someone? I've received many, many nice gifts, but I think the nicest I have ever received was a gift from Greg, Nick, and Jake. They gave me a miter saw. I think the best gift I ever gave was a trunk I made for Jacob, who stood and cried. I think I've done 8 Santa ironing boards and sold 7. Jessica's green cabinet I was proud of, as was Jamie's cabinet I made. I'm not saying anything about the cabinet you and I made. A big sucker it was. And cold. We could have built this cabinet at Jeanette's in a little bit warmer climate, but it had to be the coldest day of summertime or in the fall. We built this enormous cabinet. And then she wasn't happy with that. I mean, we were happy with it and all that, but then we had to fix her benches. Her benches, you sat on it, it was like a picnic bench, and it tipped over on the end. So we had to put a board way out on the tip of it so the bench wouldn't tip any longer.
Then you built Julie's table.
And then, oh, I forgot about Julie's table. Yes,
That
Julie.
was the day of the benches.
That was the day of the benches. That's right. Yeah, we built the cabinet by itself. Okay, okay. What's your favorite time of the day? Are there specific activities which you really enjoy at that time? Have these changed during your lifetime? My favorite time of the day is morning breakfast, because I'm still here at 80 and fixing my own. Okay. I'm finally into December. In my memories, I'm traveling homeward. In my heart, there's a special prayer. That time and distance go quickly behind me, and I'll spend my holidays there. Okay. Wait a minute, I've got just a few left. What Mother's Day, Father's Day traditions have you experienced with your children? I always receive beautiful cards and gifts from my kids, and I'm very fortunate, Mom, and I save every one. Where did you get your Christmas tree when you were growing up? Where'd you put the tree up and take it down? Oh, we bought our tree off a lot. Had to cut the trunk to get it to fit in the tree stand. It was always so beautiful. Christmas was a big celebration in our house. Okay, describe family traditions with your spouse and your children. What was Christmas like when you were growing up? Did your spouse, family? No, I think the most memorable Christmas was on Prospect. I did not have money to buy anything, and Dad turned our name into Katie Schneeberger because she knew the firemen. And the kids got all kinds of free gifts. Dad come home with the station wagon just full of games and everything. That was the year that I divorced your father and didn't have money. Now, there's something I want to say before I close up. Everything I've written or tried to remember or rack my brain is written in this book. When I didn't answer, it was because it didn't pertain to me. I want y'all to know, and I'm sure I don't have to tell you how much I love each and every one of you, how proud I am of you, and what you've all become. I feel it's an honor for me to have been your mother. And it's been an honor for me to make this video, and so that you can all laugh along and cry along also. That's what life is all about. I will have to say it's been an honor to be your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, and I wish I had a hell of a lot of money to leave to each and every one of you. Cut. I love you all.